Yeah, this is Bob McIlvaine. Today I'm going to be talking to you in a two-part program about the most profitable market program for high performance air, water, and combustion products. In one respect, it's brand new approach, but in another, it has really just been evolutionary for the last 40 some years. The McIlvaine company has been trying to improve ways to communicate the lowest total cost of ownership and therefore the best products for the end user in the whole air, water, and combustion realm. Today we're going to split the presentation into two segments. The first one will be this summary in chapters 1 through 4, which we'll be covering now. In the second segment, we're going to cover identifying and ranking each prospect, the details of the holistic content marketing program, program execution, and then R&D investment decisions, and then the most profitable market program support services that are available from us. But let's move on now to chapter 1, to the summary essentially. And what we're saying is that there is a $600 billion market for air, water, and combustion products. Half this market is populated with products where price and delivery are as important as performance. Decisions for the other 300 billion are made primarily based on performance. This is quantified as lowest total cost of ownership, or LTCO. There's the potential to greatly increase not only revenues but also margins and profits by developing superior products and selling them at prices which would cause EBITA to rise to 30% rather than the current average of less than 15%, which is historic industry-wide. The challenge is far greater than just developing superior products. The market is not functioning in a manner to embrace new and better products. The assumption is that the existing product provides the lowest total cost of ownership. Despite an internet capable of providing ample evidence to make better choices, there's no easy way for the purchaser to access information. What is needed is an organized approach which guides both supplier and purchaser to air and water and combustion products which provide higher profits to both the supplier and the purchasers. McIlvaine has created an approach which addresses the issues and provides solutions in a manner to maximize supplier profits. And just to highlight some of these aspects, it's a $300 billion market, EBITDA increase from 15 to 30%, develop superior products, determine the potential market for those products in each niche, and each niche is determined by unique total cost of ownership factors. Validate the superiority of the product in that niche with an organized approach. Create a most profitable market program, and then pursue prospects in each niche by leveraging the product superiority. So, quick definition of terms. We're using AWC as an acronym for air, water, and combustion. Alternatively, we have been using combust flow and treat, CFT, so it might be a little confusing at times. And EBITDA is earnings before interest, taxes, and amortization, and used as a measure of profitability. IOW is the industrial internet of wisdom, and it's a term that was coined by McIlvaine, but is an organized approach to coordinate knowledge in a manner similar to IIoT, which connects things. LTCOV, or lowest total cost of ownership, is the product which is the best choice when all aspects are considered. MPM, the most profitable market, an aggregation of market niches which will best average the resources of the supplier. TCO factors, total cost of ownership factors. These are the factors in each niche which determine the total cost of ownership. It's important to identify market niches, which are markets with a unique set of TCO factors. Niche expert is an individual with exceptional insights in a narrow subject area, and it needs to be qualified in that the individual has to be currently accessing the intelligence to keep him in that expert role. The serviceable SOM is the serviceable obtainable market, and this is the market that can be pursued, but only portions of this will have the high EBITDA, and that is the market that should be pursued. TAM is the total available market, and this is the market that McIlvaine is typically covering in its valve, pump, and all these other forecasts. So the program is outlined in the same way the chapters are, which is developing this superior product, and that is requires creating IIOW around customer needs and potential solutions in order to understand what needs to be developed. Potential revenue determination, this can be done with McIlvaine reports and statistics, but if you don't know the total potential, then you can't determine the specific niches. The most profitable market program strategy is the plan to supply superior products in each of the applicable niches and maximize EBITDA. Competition. You can't have a superior product unless you know what about the products being offered by your competition. So assess market shares and technology in each niche, identifying and ranking each prospect. McIlvaine databases and custom research can be used to forecast individual customer EBITDA potential. See, there's a holistic content marketing program, and this involves coordinate and utilize media and other routes to market in order to validate lowest total cost of ownership, LTCOV. Program execution. Create a program for each niche and obtain support throughout the organization. R&D investment decisions. Product improvements can be pursued based on the MPM experience and identified needs. So there's a market share TCO profitability causation loop. One causes the other. The TCO analysis provides the information needed to communicate LTCOV through the industrial Internet of Wisdom. This allows increased pricing, which then leads to increased profits. Part of these profits then are diverted into R&D, and then this leads to products with lower total cost of ownership, and the cycle continues. The Chapter 1, Superior Product Development. The performance superiority depends on the application in the industry. Product loss when moving expensive products such as biopharmaceuticals is more than moving water. Severe critical service may vary across thousands of niches. The opportunity is site-specific. Many costs are site-specific, such as electricity, which varies within a country and among countries. Useful life factors differ from industry to industry and company to company. Relative to competitors, a product superiority is dependent on the competitive alternative. New products are likely to be periodically impacting this factor, so you have to keep up with the competition. It's the perceived superiority which is the goal. Often the existing or market-leading product is assumed to have the lowest total cost of ownership. So this requires an extra effort to provide validation for a new and better product. A product can be determined to be superior because it reduces maintenance, improves safety, increases production, improves the final product, reduces product loss, improves the environment, and reduces energy costs. Superiority is relative and therefore in part determined by the performance of the competitor's products. The more dynamic the market, the easier it is to develop a superior product because there's much less competition. It's a new area. There's the potential for substantial benefits to the purchaser who may be pursuing new opportunities, such as hydrogen production and use as one example. Again, biopharmaceutical processes with small production runs of very expensive drugs would be another. The superiority of a product in a niche is dependent on the TCO factors in that niche. R&D expenditures have to be evaluated on the potential gain in market share versus the development costs and the uncertainties of success. R&D decisions are in part of the whole market share, TCO, profitability, causation loop. R&D personnel benefit from the industrial internet of wisdom in each niche. Let's move on now to chapter 2, which is potential revenue determination, or the SOM. And it actually starts with TAM, which is the total available market. And again, what McIlvaine produces in all its reports. But of that, you've got the serviceable available market. And a segment of that is the serviceable obtainable market. And most importantly then is to determine the most profitable market portion of the SOM. Looking at it from the individual purchaser standpoint, you have the total purchaser universe. You have those purchasers where you can achieve lowest total cost of ownership, and you pull them together to create the most profitable market. Before the analysis can be made of the most profitable market, it is necessary to determine the total available market. McIlvaine has compiled forecasts of air, water, and combustion since 1974. Many millions of TAM forecasts are available for each country, province, and state, in each industry, and for many different air, water, and energy products. There are also continuing updated forecasts of underlying market drivers, such as pharmaceutical revenues, semiconductor wafer production, and tons of ore mined. There are derived factors, such as secondary wastewater treatment and MGD in each country, with forecasts for the next 5 years. McIlvaine has specific reports on pumps, valves, various types of filters, centrifuges, instrumentation, and ways to measure conditions and individual constituents. There are reports on technologies such as clean rooms, isolators, flue gas desulfurization, NOx control, ultrapure water, gas turbine combined cycle technology, and bioenergy with carbon capture. and sequestration. The forecasting of revenues in various processes is not only useful to suppliers selling products for those processes, but it is also an important factor in predicting industry and GDP growth. For example, a few researchers doggedly pursued shale fracturing and completely changed the oil and gas outlook and balance of power in the world. It would be a far different place if the U.S. were, because of its shale, were not the leading energy producer. Forecasts are built on production by country as one of the factors that you iterate to determine the market. And many CFT revenues are a function of the product and production of a plant or country. For the power industry, it can be capacity or hourly generation. For the chemical industry, the tons of per year of product produced is the basis. Future production can be estimated from project databases, which McIlvaine maintains. Here's an example of ethylene production capacity through 2024 for 4 European countries. For one of those countries, you can then forecast the market for the individual purchasers within that geographical area. So the forecast can be made for each plant based on the production of the chemicals in that plant. An ethylene plant might also make polyethylene. Some plants making chlorine reuse it in multiple processes. So it gets a little confusing, but it all has to be interpreted. The CFT MPM for each process can be predicted using production forecasts. Here's an example, for instance, of valve purchases for India, using a number of different industries, but the largest suppliers, regardless of industries, of the industries that they're in. In this particular case, it was important to know the processes because NTPC is the very large engine power generator. And in 2019, they purchased a number of flue gas desulfurization systems. So this would be the equivalent of 20 or 30 years worth of needs purchased all at one time because of a regulation. And so a very large valve opportunity appeared, which is not continual. Segmenting the new and replacement forecast is very important. When a system supplier provides a new system at an existing plant, the plant owner is likely to provide a preferred product bidders list. If a product is going to be replaced or for normal service and repair, the plant will likely be the purchaser. Only a few percent of purchases will be made for greenfield plants not owned by companies already operating air-water combustion or CFT products. Expansion at existing plants is more common. Replacement of equipment is likely to be a bigger potential than purchase of equipment for a new system. If the industry growth rate is 5% and the CFT product life is 20 years, the replacement market will be the same size as the new system market. So this is an important segmentation to be able to make. Let's move on to Chapter 3, the most profitable market program. The most profitable market success results from leveraging content marketing and lowest total cost of ownership validation in each niche, starting with the TCO factors in that niche, lowest total cost of ownership. Then you have to persuade or validate this lowest total cost and then make the sale. Strategy is necessarily a bottoms-up niche analysis. It includes evaluating all the cost of ownership factors and comparing that to the offerings of the suppliers and its competitors. A market share analysis sets the stage for decisions on pricing, sales, and R&D. It is important to evaluate process and potential OEMs to determine future market opportunities. McIlvaine has services evaluating the OEMs in technology, in filtration and treatment, and is evaluating developments in cell and gene therapy, water reuse, BECCS, on a weekly basis. So we have a unique focus and knowledge that we can provide. There's a question of sales leads and more conventional ways of pursuing customers. But if the company is not already communicating with a prospect, the decision really for a high performance product is probably going to be made early on, and therefore the sales lead may not even be that valuable. But when you compare the two from a profitability focus, the MPM forecasts are superior. The value of pursuit is undetermined with the typical approach, but needs to be determined with the MPM. And the timing with MPM, you can be anticipating the opportunity for years or months. And the ability to validate lowest total cost of ownership is normally random, but it's an essential part of the program. So the guidance for promotional expense allocation is not crystal clear normally, but with this program, you know where to spend your promotional dollars. Guidance for sales targets by location, industry, and product. It's excellent with this program where the sales targets actually have quotas. Reliance on sales commissions and distributor markups is higher with a conventional program and lower with the MPM program. The MPM forecasts for each plant are produced cost effectively. The top 550 companies with 60% of the CFT or AWT purchases operate 10,000 plants. The most profitable market for the individual plants is important in terms of service and purchase of general performance products. Most CFT purchasers have environmental emissions as well as safety issues, resulting in availability of detailed government information. The production of power in megawatt hours, tons of iron, all these other different factors are used to determine the MPM forecast for any particular client. 95% of CFT purchases are made for existing plants, whether it be for replacement or expansion. The purchase of high performance products can be anticipated months or years in advance. Sales leads are really not the route to selling high performance products. McIlvaine maintains plant and project databases for many industries. Chapter 4, Competition. McIlvaine already has compiled extensive competitor information. The market shares of participants in each niche are needed to make the best MPM decisions. In addition, the amount of advertising and exhibition activity shows the targeted geographies and industries where the competitor wants to increase his share. So this needs to be tabulated. The gathering of market share data is a challenging and time-consuming task. Local salesmen are good resources for geographic data. there's relatively little information available for private companies and for divisions of public companies, where the relevant segment revenues are only a small percentage of the total. Some of these estimates need to be at a granular level, not even tracked by the company. McIlvaine has calculated valve sales by valve type and industries for some large valve companies. The result is more than 100 extractions. Since McIlvaine already has relative market share type data by valve type in each application, it is possible to extrapolate that data and interpret the numbers in a profit and loss statement and come out with very specific and valuable segments. McIlvaine maintains market share data for thousands of companies. Past analyses have resulted in very narrow niche market share analyses. The merger and acquisition activity of the company has been insightful in this regard. So there are lots of ways to determine competitor market share, obviously from the financial history, but we tend to look at older transactions too. If it's a large conglomerate, looking at the acquisition payments for companies in the past is a way to get these niche market insights. Again, our M&A experience has been helpful. A lot of custom research has been done year after year, and all of this is cumulative and becomes very valuable in any new studies. The industrial internet of wisdom, and it can always be tapped, and the fact that a lot of it is already organized, we can go quickly to white papers and data published by companies and have important pieces of the competitive puzzle. Bidders lists are insightful too, particularly for a given company, as to who are likely to be the competition that's successful at that company. Some statistics, such as even import quantities, turned out to be invaluable in a can motor pump study that we did, where the domestic subsidiary was importing virtually everything to the United States that would consist of the competition. So McIlvaine newsletters and alerts continually track companies and report on sales and project information. So this can be reviewed historically for quite valuable information. We interview other competitors. The fact that we know people at all these places is helpful in getting these interviews. And the same thing with consultants. We interview consultants. And the large consulting firms specify significant quantities of air, water, and combustion products and can be quite knowledgeable. Interviews with customers are invaluable as well, but particularly because we can go to the expert at the customer location and talk to him in a knowledgeable way. Interviews with the OEMs are obviously quite useful. The process of elimination is a technique where you have to look at all the environmental division revenues to segment and understand interpret the revenues in one segment. Product exhibitions are useful. Industry exhibitions are very useful, and if you're in a particular focus like on brewery centrifuges, looking at regional brewery exhibitions around the world can reveal competitor activities. Magazine advertising is another route. So plant and air water permits show the equipment that's installed at a production facility, and you can actually calculate production at some of these plants based on how many of a particular type of piece of equipment that they have at that plant. The Google Earth parking lots has been used in the past. The local paper interviews often have insights from CEOs talking about how important the company is for the local community, with future expectations being expressed. Distributors are knowledgeable about the market shares in their territory, but they also have insights on purchasers of individual company and also on competitors. Installation lists are quite important. Association participation, if a competitor is active in a particular association, the assumption would be that that's an industry that they're pursuing. There's LinkedIn employee information, which is invaluable. There are retired individuals who, particularly if they're recently retired, who can be extremely valuable in providing insights that aren't available pretty much anywhere else. But again, the whole process is shown here. In this case, it's a major supplier of peristaltic pumps, but they only have a 0.2% of the total flow and treat market, even though it's a multi-division company. In pumps is only one of their divisions, but still a very tiny part of the whole. But as you go up the ladder, they have a 0.4% of the pump industry, 8% of pharmaceutical pumps, 15% of rotary pharmaceutical pumps, 30% of the peristaltic pharmaceutical pumps, and with a company like Regeneron, they have about 70% share. So this is the output that you're looking for. And this is the end of chapter 4. And in the next section, we will be discussing chapters 5 through 9. Thank you for your attention. And this is Bob McIlvaine. I look forward to answering any of your questions. It's 847-226-2391.